Imagine yourself sitting at your desk. You have a file you created yourself. You named it yourself. You saved it yourself, and you cannot find it. You press the Windows key. You type the name of the file. Windows spins. It stalls. It shows you a Bing result about a movie. It shows you something from the Microsoft Store. It suggests you try Copilot, and your file is nowhere. You are not doing anything wrong. Windows search is just broken. Broken in the way that something breaks when the people who built it decided it should do something other than what you need it to do. Now, there is a free tool under 2 megabytes built by a single developer that can find any file on your entire hard drive in the time it takes you to finish typing the name. His name is David Carpenter. You have probably never heard of him. Microsoft has a market cap in the trillions of dollars. David Carpenter built something that makes their flagship operating system look embarrassed. I am going to show you what his tool does, walk you through the setup, and explain where Microsoft went wrong. A fresh Windows installation with around 120,000 files is fully indexed by David Carpenter's tool before you can blink. We are talking roughly 1 second. 1 second to know where every single file on your machine lives. In one documented test, the tool indexed a 1 terabyte solid-state drive in about 5 seconds. A 1 terabyte drive. 5 seconds. Now compare that to Windows Search, which has been running on your machine since the day you bought it, maintained by a company with more money than most countries, and which still manages to show you a Bing article about a movie when you are trying to find a spreadsheet. The tool typically consumes around 14 megabytes of RAM. 14 megabytes. Your browser uses more memory loading a single tab. This tool is holding the index of your entire hard drive in 14 megabytes of RAM and returning results before your fingers leave the keyboard. The tool is called Everything. It is made by a company called voidtools. And the reason it is so dramatically, almost absurdly faster than Windows Search comes down to a single technical decision. One that Windows made decades ago, and David Carpenter simply took advantage of. Before we get to how it works, I want to tell you about what Microsoft did with Windows Search instead of fixing it. Windows Search is built on a background service called searchindexer.exe. This service runs continuously, scanning folders you have chosen, building a local database of file names, and in some cases, file contents. The goal was always to let Windows return results without reading the disk every single time you search. A reasonable idea. The problem is that this indexer is slow to build, tends to fall behind, and has grown over the years into something that barely resembles its original purpose. Windows 10 started blending web results, but it still respected intent most of the time. Windows 11 pushes that integration much further, and in doing so, it blurred the purpose of search itself. If you open Windows Search today and do not type anything, what you see is a feed. A feed, not a search box, not a place to find your files. A feed of content. There is a Copilot logo. There are trending topics. There is a section for AI tools that does not actually perform any system-level action. Clicking them simply redirects you to Bing in a browser. Modern Windows Search no longer just queries a local index. It now routes queries through multiple systems at once. Local indexing, ranking logic, cloud signals, and Bing-powered web integration. Every time you search, Windows is talking to the internet, weighing signals from Microsoft's advertising and content ecosystem, and then deciding what to show you. Your files are one factor in that equation, not the only one. The classic example, which got millions of views on social media, is searching for the word terminal and getting results related to the movie instead of the Windows Terminal application installed on the machine. You searched for a program that is sitting right there. Windows pointed you at a film. David Carpenter looked at this situation and decided to do the opposite of everything Microsoft did, and the way he did it is one of the most elegant things in personal computing. Every drive formatted with Windows Standard File System, NTFS, which covers the vast majority of Windows hard drives in use today, contains something called the master file table. Think of it as a ledger that Windows keeps internally, recording the name and location of every file on the drive. Windows creates this ledger, Windows maintains this ledger, and Windows updates this ledger automatically every time you create, move, rename, or delete a file. Rather than crawling files one by one, everything reads this master file table directly. It is a low-level index that NTFS already maintains for every file on disk. By reading it in bulk, everything can build a complete file name database for an entire drive in roughly 1 second. That is it. That is the whole secret. Windows already had the answer written down. It just chose not to use it for search. Once the initial index is built, everything keeps it current in real time by monitoring the NTFS change journal, a Windows feature that logs every file system change, including creations, deletions, renames, and moves. So the index never goes stale. The moment you save a new file, everything knows about it. David Carpenter has been maintaining this tool since 2004, over 20 years. While Microsoft added Bing results and Copilot tiles to the search box, he kept building something that does one thing: finds your files instantly every time. Everything has accumulated over 30 million installs. 30 million people found a free tool built by one developer more useful than the search function built into the operating system on their machine. If 30 million people are downloading a tiny program to fix Windows search, why has Microsoft not just fixed Windows search? The answer is more uncomfortable than you might expect. The frustration with Windows search is not a new complaint. It goes back well over a decade. But something changed in recent years that pushed the problem from annoying to genuinely insulting. Right now, there is no way to turn off web integration in Windows Search through the normal settings menu. The only way to disable web search is by manually editing the Windows registry, creating multiple entries deep inside the registry to block web integration. Think about that. You want to search your own computer. You want that search to stay on your own computer. To do that, to make the most basic version of search work the way it should, you have to open the registry editor, navigate several levels deep into a system folder most users have never seen, and manually create the entries that tell Windows to stop sending your keystrokes to Bing. One wrong entry and you have a different problem entirely. That is not a limitation. That is a design choice that benefits Microsoft's advertising and content ecosystem, not you. And here is what makes it worse. This situation has not crept up on Microsoft by surprise. User complaints about Windows Search have been documented, discussed, and circulated publicly for years. Forum posts, social media threads, tech publications, the feedback has been consistent and loud. Slow results? Wrong results? Web results when nobody asked for web results. The recycle bin not showing up when you search for it. The Windows terminal returning a movie. These are not edge cases reported by power users running unusual configurations. These are basic failures happening on ordinary machines to ordinary people every single day. The Windows team has since confirmed that major improvements are in development, formally acknowledging problems with slow results, irrelevant web suggestions, and poor local indexing. One senior member of the Windows engineering team responded publicly to complaints, noting that even something as basic as the recycle bin was not showing up correctly in results, and that they were working on fixing the ranking systems responsible. And as of mid-2026, Microsoft is finally testing a toggle that would let users disable Bing in their search results, slotted into the privacy and security settings. Still testing, not shipped, still being evaluated. There is no confirmed timeline for when it reaches standard users. After more than a decade of complaints, Microsoft is testing the option to let you search your own computer without being shown internet content. Still testing. Meanwhile, David Carpenter's 2-megabyte tool has been doing exactly that since 2004, without a toggle, without a setting, just by default, because that is what a search tool is supposed to do. And what this means for the people who depend on their computers every day, That is the part of this story I want you to really feel. The people who use Windows Search are the people who sit down at a computer to get something done. They have a tax document they saved 3 months ago. They have a photo their grandchildren sent them. They have a contract they are supposed to sign this afternoon. They type the name of the thing they need. They wait. And sometimes Windows finds it. And sometimes it does not. And when it does not, they type again. They wait again. They try to remember which folder it might be in, whether they named it something slightly different. The thing they came to the computer to do gets buried under the thing they now have to do instead. Find a file they definitely saved on a machine they own. For someone who is not comfortable with computers, someone who learned Windows out of necessity, not enthusiasm, a search that returns nothing or returns nonsense is not just a frustration. It erodes confidence. It makes the machine feel unreliable. It makes a person feel like they did something wrong when they did not do anything wrong at all. Everything fixes this immediately and completely for the most common search scenario, finding a file whose name you know or partially know. You type 3 letters and every file on your machine whose name contains those 3 letters appears on screen before you can lift your hand from the keyboard. You do not have to know the full name. You do not have to know the extension. Results appear as you type, narrowing in real time with every character. Here is how to set it up. Go to voidtools.com. Download everything. The installer is under 2 megabytes. Run it, accept the administrator prompt, and let it build its initial index. On most machines, that takes somewhere between 1 and 5 seconds. From that point forward, everything runs quietly in the background and is available the moment you need it. You can keep using it as a standalone window, or, if you watch the next video in this series, integrate it directly into Windows' own launcher so it becomes the search you reach for automatically. 2 minutes. That is all it takes to make your computer find your files again. Everything is extraordinarily fast at one specific task, finding files by name. You type a word, a fragment, part of a file name, and everything returns every matching result on your drive in real time. For this task, it is not meaningfully comparable to Windows Search. It is in a different category entirely. There is no tuning required, no waiting for the index to catch up, no moment where the results feel incomplete. You type and the answer is there. What everything does not do by default is search inside files. If you are looking for a document that contains the phrase quarterly earnings, but you cannot remember what you named it, Windows Search can actually help with that because it indexes some file contents in addition to file names. Everything's index is built from names and paths only. For content search, the two tools are doing different jobs, and Windows Search has a genuine use case there. If your workflow regularly involves searching for words inside documents rather than searching for file names, you will want to keep that in mind. Everything does offer optional content indexing. You can enable it in the settings, but that is not its strength, and it is not what 30 million people installed it for. Its strength is the thing it does instantly and without effort, telling you exactly where a file lives the moment you ask. Everything works best on NTFS drives, which are indexed automatically. The vast majority of internal Windows hard drives are NTFS, so for most users, this is not a limitation you will ever encounter. FAT32 drives and network shares can be added to the index, but indexing those is slower, and the speed advantage over Windows Search is reduced. If you are searching primarily on your main internal drive, which covers most people most of the time, you will not notice any of this. The tool requires administrator privileges to read the master file table. That is a technical requirement of the approach, not a red flag. Windows needs to grant low-level access to the drive's file index, and administrator rights are how that permission is granted. Everything runs as a background service under the system account by default, which is standard practice for tools that need persistent system-level access. That said, everything is a third-party product from a single developer, not a Microsoft product, and the degree of trust you extend to it is a reasonable consideration. Download it from the official voidtools.com website only. Do not source it from a third-party download aggregator. The file is small enough that verifying you have the right thing takes about 10 seconds. The optimistic case is straightforward. Everything solves the most common real-world search problem faster and more reliably than the built-in alternative. It costs nothing. It takes 2 minutes to install. It runs on negligible system resources, and it works immediately without configuration. The pessimistic case is also straightforward. It is one developer, it is not open source, and it does not replace every function Windows Search serves. The deeper question this story raises is about what happened to Windows Search. A company worth trillions of dollars built a search feature that millions of people abandoned for a free tool made by one person. That does not happen by accident. That happens because the company decided its search feature should serve multiple purposes, and finding your files efficiently was not the top priority. Whether Microsoft's promised improvements will change that calculation remains to be seen. As of today, they are still in testing. We started this video with a simple, infuriating situation: a file you know exists, a search box that will not find it, a trillion-dollar company that spent years adding Bing results and Copilot tiles to a feature that was broken at its foundation. David Carpenter looked at that situation and built a 2-megabyte program that reads the file index Windows was already maintaining and returns results the moment you type. Over 30 million people installed it. Microsoft, after more than a decade of complaints, is still testing a toggle to let you search your own computer without being shown the internet. Go to voidtools.com. 2 minutes. Your relationship with your own computer changes today. If you found this useful, subscribe. Every video in this channel is about one verifiable thing Microsoft has gotten wrong and one concrete thing you can do about it. This one was about search. The file you were looking for at the start, it is still there. After today, you will find it in about 2 seconds.